That's
Hi,
great.
Vincent. Hi, Vincent. I am Jayasudha. So myself, I grew up in Bangalore. I moved to Colorado Springs in 2015, about 6 years back. So I am married and I have two kids. My daughter is in third grade and my son is like 3.5 years old. And I'm a software engineer by profession. But after I moved to US, like it was like change of complete lifestyle for me. Like basically you're out of your comfort zone. So back home, I had everything set and I just have to think and it used to happen. It was like that. So I had a nice job. I had my parents next to me to help me with my family and everything. And then when I moved here, like I was left all by myself and I was not knowing what to do. And I didn't have a job also. I had to search a job. So then I started realizing what is really important for me. And till then I was very much into like my corporate life. So I was like, I have to grow and I have to do this. I was very kind of ambitious. But then after I moved here, a kind of realization came that is not what I really want. That is not the core of me, which is what I wanted. So I'm doing like yoga meditation from past 2 years. But after I joined the Yoga Institute, I'm into like more constant practice, and I do read lot of like spiritual stuff. Yeah, that's about me. I'm just wondering what is life and where it takes, and whatever happens, it happens for a reason. But I want to know what is that reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I want to meet all
This
monks
question,
and Buddhists.
question
But
is
right now, I feel I'm stuck here and I'm not able to connect there. So yeah, I am in like a transition phase. I don't know what I'm doing.
this transition or this question is a common question, and I often wonder why it's not addressed, because I address it with my students often. The sutras specifically says the purpose of life is to, number one, to enjoy this existence which the creator created, and then the second purpose is to liberate the soul, to reach kaivalya. And that's what the Yoga Sutras teach: how to reach kaivalya, how to liberate your soul from dependence upon physical reality for happiness, and how to liberate your soul from suffering.
Awesome.
Short answer.
Well, maybe I'll just take 1 minute, I promise, just because I feel like if I don't, it's kind of like missing. So I'll just briefly say that my yoga story started about 7 years ago. And prior to that, I was just, one of those crazy corporate people for like 30 plus years. And my life was just very, very busy with being married, raising a family, taking care of, elderly parent, aging parents or sick parents. And it was just like a constant to-do list. And I was an insane person. I lived an insane life. And then magically, 7 years ago, I was in a downsize, and it was something I welcomed because the prior 2 years were just miserable. And Richard Rohr talks about how people spend their lives, ascending these ladders, and then when you get to the top of the ladder, you realize that your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. And I kind of woke up, at 50, whatever I was, 1 or 2. And I said, this is not the life that I want to lead anymore. And I want to have a better life. And one of my Chase colleagues who's been a part of the yoga teacher training that we've all been through, she had been telling me about yoga for years. So she introduced me to the Yoga Institute. And I just started my practice actually at LA Fitness 7 years ago. And I had a number of teachers there that were my favorites. And Vincent, I always enjoyed your classes. They were very interesting. And, so here I am. And it's been, people say there's life, after the corporate life or life after Chase, because that's where I spent my life. And it's actually been my best life. So I'm very happy to be on a different journey.
Oh, that's great. I was extremely happy to see your face. when you came up in the conversation. I definitely felt the connection with you. So
Awesome. All right, so now we're off and running.
okay, so in the message you sent me, please give us a brief summary of the last 10 sutras in the first pada. So what I wanted to say as a response for that is, it's repeated study of the sutras that do it. And when we start reading these sutras, give commentaries, I feel the best way to study the sutras is to actually read each sutra one at a time and go over the sutras themselves. So I'd like to start with Sutra 141. So this is my translation of the sutras. So I wrote this, and I recommend to you guys that after you study the sutras 5-10 times, if you want to write your own copy, when you write your own copy, you have to internalize and then regurgitate. So that's really what gave me the final understanding of the sutras, is after I wrote my own copy. But I've studied them, I've read them at least 10 times. I lost count to how many times I've read them. So this is Sutra 141, translation 1. When the mind and the heart are purified, the practitioner realizes translate the sutras from Sanskrit to English. Sanskrit, Greek, and Aramaic are expressive languages. English is a descriptive language. So the English is superior in the fact that we have more words that describe more things and are very particular and are able to describe better. But Sanskrit is superior in the fact that one Sanskrit word can express a lot more meaning. So one Sanskrit word might contain 1,000 English words. Comparative reasoning is when you read something, you give something for the reader to compare it to. So I feel comparative reasoning is superior because you're reading the sutra, you're getting the full definition of it, and you're not swaying from Patanjali's original words. So translation 2, when the movements of the mind weaken, it becomes like a clear diamond, assuming the form of the perceiver, the process of perception, and the object of perception. Translation 3, just as the naturally pure crystal assumes shapes and colors of objects placed near it, so the stilled mind, free from defilement, becomes clear and balanced. One then attains a state devoid of differentiation between the knower, the instrument of knowing, and the known. Translation 4, like a flawless crystal, the subdued mind reflects the object upon which it rests, whether the object is the knower, the senses, or the object of knowledge. Let's move right on to Sutra 142. At this stage, Sutra 143, translation 1. In Nirvicharva Samadhi, you realize the difference between memory and intellectual illumination. Your memory becomes cleansed, and the light of consciousness shines with blissful purity. Translation 2. When the memory is purified, then the object of concentration shines alone, without reflection, devoid of distinctions of name and quality. This is Nirvicharva Samadhi, or Samadhi with deliberation. Sutra 144. Stop. Mhm. Yes.
Vincent, hold on.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Mhm.
Oh, Shilpi, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we got like a little confused when we were discussing the sutras at this point, because we were trying to understand what, I mean, please add on Matt, Jesod and Barbara, because I remember we were very confused and we just jumped on these ones as to what is with reasoning and without reasoning. What exactly is the difference in the two samadhis? I mean, we were like totally confused, and we just couldn't understand. We just like jumped over them. So if you could just illuminate a little, because I mean, I'm reading the Vivekanand version and Matt is probably reading. Yeah, Matt, you can carry on.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, Vincent, what you're doing is comparing translations that you have read, and I think this is very similar to what we're doing. We basically have 3 or 4 different translations, and we read to each other what the translations are, and then discuss what we get from that, and how significant we feel the differences are in emphasis. And some of them are really very different in emphasis. And then we have Jayasuda, who studied Sanskrit, so she gives her own concise translation without any commentary. So I was can you confirm that, like, basically what we've been doing is similar to what you've been doing by comparing different translations?
Absolutely. By comparing the different translations is the absolute best way to study the sutras. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Okay. And then I think that yeah, that the other question will come to the other comment will come later when it's formulated properly.
So
Well, that makes me feel good, though, that what we've been doing, is the kind of prescribed method. We've just been, stumbling on this, but we've been doing a good job, I think. So let's all give ourselves a pat on the back.
Absolutely. I believe your question was, what is the difference between with blissful purity? Then in Savichara Samadhi, the focused examination of the subtle aspects of nature of something is also explained. So in here, you go into contemplation about further aspects of the object that are beyond the physical. For example, you can look at me and you see my physical body. Then you can say, okay, Vincent has these qualities within him. So you're diving more into more deeper aspects of it. And then the next one, that is the Savichara Samadhi. So then you said, what's the difference between with deliberation and without? In one, there's contemplation. In the other one, there's not contemplation. So when you're contemplating an object, after you're done contemplating, there'll be a moment where you have a realization about the object. After the moment of realization, then there's a space of no thought.
Okay.
That's it.
So what is this samadhi experience? I mean, like, can we know, like, in physical world?
Yes. Repeated study of the sutras, dear. So the sutras, what is samadhi? Samadhi is when your mind and your soul become one, and then they ignite with your memory and your morals into the space around you, and consciousness comes back to its source, and you sit in the blissful light of consciousness itself. That's what samadhi is. So you start to feel this effulgent blissful, peaceful, loving light. And your mind calms down. There's not so many racing thoughts. There's no anxiety, there's no cravings, there's no desire.
And is it always that this is a gradual process, or is it like a switch? Is it like one day when you finally learned to, when you've gone through dharana and dhyana, and you can focus and be one-pointed, is it like a switch that it suddenly comes on? Or is it like with the other benefits of practicing yoga that you gradually, you sort of evolve and things get better? And when you, in instances like this, we often reflect backwards and go, oh yeah, now that we learn about that in the sutra, I look back on my own life and I see that I was in this place before, and now I'm in this place, and there's been an evolution. Is it that, reaching samadhi will somehow be like an evolution, or will it be like a switch? I think what I want to know, maybe what we all want to know, is how do you know when you're there? That's the, we all know that we're not there, that we haven't reached samadhi. But like, how will we know if we ever get there in this life? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, no, I think it is. And Vincent, before you answer it, can I just say, Matt, that I really like the way that you posed the question. And I'm really interested in hearing what your response is, Vincent, but I believe, like most things that I have come to realize, like Vincent, you used that word realized when we first talked, is that, slowly a new person emerges and change is taking place. Like, that's one of my favorite lines from, step meetings and so forth. But like, you realize over time that a new person has been emerging and that you are very different today than you once were. So I think it's gradual, but Vincent, we invited you as the guru today.
Okay, so if you practice mildly, you'll get mild gain. If you practice medium, with medium effort, you'll get medium gain. If you practice wholeheartedly, devoutly, vigorously, with spiritual intent, then you'll see maximum gain on your path to samadhi. It also depends on your karma when you're coming into this life. If you have karma coming into this life, then some people are able to reach samadhi very quickly. Then how do you know when you reach it? If you're practicing the 8 limbs devoutly and you're practicing your concentration, you'll see glimpses of it during your meditation. Then when you continue to study the sutras, you have more and more insight to when you were starting to feel samadhi during your meditations. And for me, it was slowly over time. I began to feel the light and see the light of the soul and realize it.
Okay.
Good answer. It's basically, it's not the same as the saying, you get what you pay for, but you basically get what you invest, is what I got from your answer there. It all depends upon your effort, I suppose.
And doesn't that kind of make sense when you reflect on what the law of karma says, and that we know that an action will have a reaction, or an action will have a consequence, and presumably the more dramatic the action, the more dramatic the consequence, or the more slight the action, more slight the consequence. I mean, we see this especially in adult life every day, and you're realizing the law of karma. So I guess that the idea that how fast your progress is and how far you reach does depend on how much effort you put in. And if I if the other members of the group will forgive me asking one of my perennial questions, but one of my perennial questions, one thing that really interests me is how do you develop that desire? What is it that gives you the willpower to be able to put more effort into learning how to be learning how to have a one-pointed mind? And to me, this is kind of key, because you see that I know from my own experience, there are times when I really want it, and I try to analyze, okay, what is it that's going on in my life, or what has happened, or what have I felt that has helped me to feel, to give me this this feeling to want to do something. And then there are other times when I don't want to do it, and that analysis in terms of working out, well, why don't I, or why don't I believe, or why don't I see that? That's harder to do. So I'm always, I'm really interested in that. In this, how can you cultivate whatever is necessary to be able to give you more willpower and more desire to put more effort into your search? On the negative side, what I think what all of us have shared is that a crisis of unhappiness put us in a position where we were motivated to make an effort. But then once you're making that effort and you're on a nice plane and you're seeing, oh, I'm a nicer person, I'm a calmer person, whatever. And what do you have to do to cultivate getting the next step of desire to be able to put more effort into it? I think practice, like having your practice, I think has a big difference. Is there anything else?
Guys, so let's see if we can do one at a time.
Okay.
Point at a time. So the pleasure is tinged with pain, and we don't see it when we're indulging in pleasure. But every pleasure that you take causes a like or a dislike. Every like that you have makes you want more of your likes, and every dislike that you have makes you be averse and get angry. So when you like something or dislike something, it's not as simply as liking or disliking. It causes you to have more craving and desire, or it causes you to be more averse. So when you're in a state of desire, you're not happy. And when you're in a state of being averse to something, not liking something, hating something, then you're suffering. So the only time that you're happy is when you're contented. So, and the only way you can stay contented is when you practice concentration, when you're in a state of concentration. Otherwise, your mind goes back into some sorrow over and over again. So the more and more that you study the sutras and realize that, then when you practice your concentration meditation, you start to taste the peace. And then you move away from the pleasure of the senses. Now, it's also important to understand pratyahara, the fifth limb, means to withdraw your senses inwards towards the soul instead of outwards towards the physical objects and the earthly objects. So this is considered as food. Everything you feed your mind is considered as food. So pratyahara isn't just focusing inwards towards realizing what you truly are. Pratyahara is also starving in your senses from the sense stimulation. So there's a detox there. And then the more that you fill the senses for pleasure's sake, the more and more desire and craving that you get. So when you're actually purging, when you're practicing the 8 limbs, you're purging all of these pleasures and all of these impurities out of your soul and your mind so that they reach a state of purity. When you're in that state of purity, it's the greatest bliss and it's the greatest joy.
I'm astounded.
So how do you practice pratyahara living in this world? Like, I mean, literally, if you are a mother, if you're a, if you're a wife, if you're a friend, if you're a child, how do you actually withdraw your senses? It can only be a momentary withdrawal, right? I mean, say I'm sitting in meditation and then I contemplate and I have a momentary withdrawal, but how do you stay detached from all those, I mean, sensory pleasure doesn't mean just having, liquor or going to a dance party. It can also be a hug from your child, right? It's as implicit as that. So how do you practice all that? I mean, in living in this world, like, do you have to, does it really work that way? Like when you're in the world and yet withdrawn from it?
When I first started teaching, I told my students to meditate for 2 hours a day, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. But my students became overwhelmed and said that they didn't have enough time. So then now I tell my students, start with 5 to 7 minutes a day of meditation twice a day. And if you can't find that, then you don't want to practice yoga. And it's scientifically proven that within 5 to 7 minutes of meditation, that your brain goes through a profound change. So there is no substitute for practicing the 8 limbs, and there's no substitute for studying the sutras. And I teach things classically. There's teaching the 8 limbs classically and practicing them classically, the way that our ancestors taught us, is the way that it's supposed to be done. Now, from here, it's repeated study of the sutras and practice of the 8 limbs. One-pointed concentration is when you focus your mind on one point in time and space. There's 2 main ways to do it. The first is to start to practice on the belly button and the energy in the belly. And the second one is to practice right between the eyeballs, right in front of the face. Now, again, you can do this to any point in the body. You can focus on the crown of the head. You can focus on the heart. So the Yoga Sutras gives 3 main spaces to focus your consciousness on. The first one is the nabi, the space below the belly button. The second one is the heart. And the third one is the space at the top of the crown of the head. So to get started, make time for your meditation daily and make that your most important thing. Everything else comes second to the meditation. As long as you have shelter from the elements and food, your meditation is your most important thing.
So what is the relation between Samadhi and Kundalini? Like when your Kundalini raises, they tell you get Samadhi-like experience. Is there any relation between them?
Yes, absolutely. Your spinal column has 3 major energy channels. So there are 114 chakras. There are 72,000 nadis. The main 3 channels are the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. The Ida is the left channel. It's the moon energy. The Pingala is the right channel. It's the sun energy. And then the Sushumna is the central channel. It's the channel in which your 7 main chakras lie. And it's the channel of non-duality. Then in your Sushumna, there's a special nadi that not many people know about. It's called the Brahmanadi. And it's called the Brahmanadi because when you open this nadi, you become God. You become Brahma. And this nadi has 3 main granthis on it. The granthis means a knot. So the reason why your Kundalini can't flow through your Brahmanadi is because you have these 3 knots along that channel. But if you sit in meditation and purify your body, these 3 knots get eaten up by the Kundalini, and the Kundalini hits the crown. As soon as the Kundalini hits the crown, you experience Samadhi.
So how do you know you're progressing in your meditation?
You just make it a habit and a lifestyle that you're doing your meditation for at least 5 to 7 minutes twice a day. I recommend 1 hour. There are karmic issues that occur. Sometimes we can't because we have to take care of the children. Sometimes we can't because we have to pay too many bills. Sometimes we can't because we've done bad things in our past. So forcing yourself to find that 5 to 7 minutes twice a day and read the sutras repeatedly you will definitely see progress in your practice. But listen, the first sutra is to be present in this moment. So you should be fully present in this moment all the time. So life is a concession of moments that goes from the past to the present to the future, from the future to the past to the present, from the future to the past to the present. So you're constantly in that process. But the yogini, having realized this, transcends the limitations of the psychological processes that go from the future to the past by always being present in this moment. And by always being present in this moment, the yogini becomes limitless. This is directly from the sutras. So this is word for word, verbatim, right from the sutras. So the first time I read the sutras, I liked it, but I didn't grasp it. It wasn't until my 10th or 11th time of reading the sutras that I fully grasped them. So along with the study, the fourth niyama is svadhyaya. Svadhyaya means study. Study of who you are, what are your pros, what are your cons, and study of the spiritual texts. And along with svadhyaya goes surrender to God. And then with these two come concentration, the sixth limb, and the seventh limb is when you start to calm your mind and your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share something? Can I share something, Jayasudha? So I don't know if it's progress, but what I want to share is that when I first started to do concentration exercises in order to try and put myself in a meditative state, which we in shorthand call meditating in English, like I was really shocked at. So when I got into that state, I was really shocked at what my mind produced in terms of thoughts, which I then had to let go. Really shocked, as in things that when I'm conscious normally I would not think of, I would not contemplate, I would not. And that was kind of a revelation where I go, oh, now I understand how, when we read these descriptions of the mind being, a drunken monkey, I got it, because somehow I had separated, part of me had stepped back from listening to the mind. When I do those same exercises now, and I do that every day, what the mind offers me when I'm in that state is now different, and it's calmer, and it's more constructive, and it's more in line with what I'm trying to achieve in realizing that the self is separate from the mind. And so I feel like I have made progress in that way, in that my mind has certainly changed and responded to what I'm trying to do. And I sort of see that as progress. And then from the outside, when I sort of reflect on my behavior and how I feel about things, I also feel that that there, I can see this evolution. But the evidence that I see that sort of things are changing is that what my mind offers me when I'm trying to become one-pointed, when I'm focusing on something, the distractions that come up are less distracting, and they're more in line with what I'm trying to achieve.
Yes.
Vincent, can with everybody else's permission, can I bring up another question that we had? So, do you have a guru? Did you have a guru? Because it's not that we disagree with this, but we all feel a little guru-less. Some of us are happy about that and say that we can be our own gurus, and others are like, well, it would be convenient if a guru appeared and we could have some personal training. So, gurus. you have one? Will one appear eventually when we're ready? Is it, can we be our own gurus? Can we be gurus to each other?
So guru means to shed light where there is darkness. So that's what a guru does.
Okay.
I had a guru, and then I learned from every master and guru. Back in the day, you would have to travel hundreds of miles just to meet one guru. But now with the upgrades in technology, we have the ability to learn from every guru on the planet without even leaving the comfort of our living room. So you want to make sure that you're filling your mind with the spiritual teachings, with quality. So don't feed your mind things that are going to degrade your spiritual growth. Feed your mind things that are going to upgrade your spiritual practice. You can choose a guru if you like. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And as long as you're following a guru that's wise, that's honest, that's going to lead you towards liberation, that's wonderful. If you become contingent upon an external object for your salvation, you limit yourself. So the final samadhi is called Dharma Mega Samadhi, Nirbija Samadhi and Dharma Mega Samadhi. These two samadhis are not contingent upon anything in the earthly plane. At that point, you completely let go of all of your earthly attachments. Your soul, your mind, your emotions become one, and you reach Kaivalya, final liberation, and never having to lean on anything earthly or become attached to anything earthly again. The repeated
Matt, does that help?
Yeah, what I've understood from our studies together and from my own study is that there is nothing that can substitute practice, and you cannot share your practice with anyone else. And so even if you have a guru, like you said, Vincent, what really counts, what will be important, how you achieve your goal is only you can know that, only you can feel that, only you can understand exactly where you are. So a guru hopefully will understand where you are, because a guru will have reached the level where he or she can read your mind, know where you are. But in the end, I do understand that with or without a guru, you still have to do the work. You still have to understand yourself. You still have to go through these stages. I think maybe what I'm looking for and what we're looking for as a group is sort of, without a guru, where do you go for reassurance that the efforts that you're making now are the ones that will take you to where you want to go? But then at the back of my mind, I'm also thinking Ishvara Pranidhana, that everything happens for a good reason, that, you know, that there are many paths that lead us to samadhi. There are many different types of yoga. And so I'm thinking, one of the teachers that I had, she's like, if you can do Ishvara Pranidhana, if you can let go and let everything up to God, then you don't have to worry about whether you have a guru or not, because you will be guided without you seeing the arms that are guiding you towards where you should be and the right path.
You're learning from whatever you're looking at. So whatever's right in front of your nose is your guru. And the Nirodha Parinama is when the rising mental image and the falling mental image are the same. You've attained Nirodha Parinama. I think we're focusing too much on asking the questions and too little on studying the suttas. The suttas themselves should be studied repeatedly. So while it's great to be able to ask the guru your question and have the guru enlighten you on that question, that's fine. But if it takes away too much from the study of the suttas themselves, then it's almost wrong action.
So I guess we're stuck with each other. We're going to be meeting from now until forever.
Well, we're on Sutra 145.
Go ahead, Shilpa. You look like you want to ask something.
No,
okay.
I think I can. Yeah, I said, yeah, we can go to 145. Yes.
Sutra 145. The subtlest dimension is consciousness. When consciousness dissolves in the space around you, it loses all attachments and becomes pure. Translation 2. The subtle nature of possible objects that one can concentrate on has an undefinable ending. Translation 3. Emptiness is the origin of all objects of concentration. Sutra 146. The states of samadhi described previously are dependent upon previous knowledge, which can lead to attachment. Translation 2. The levels of samadhi previously described are with seed, which could bring one back into bondage or create further mental disturbances. Sutra 147. From mastery of Nirvicharva Samadhi, purity is attained and undisturbed illuminated consciousness flows, igniting the spiritual light of the self. Translation 2. When one attains perfection of the Samadhi free of conscious reflection, one's soul becomes serene and benevolent. Sutra 148. When the consciousness and wisdom become one, limitations are removed. Then the practitioner is capable of knowing anything and everything. Translation 2. When consciousness resides in wisdom, a truth-bearing state of direct spiritual perception dawns. Translation 3. When consciousness and wisdom become one, limitations are removed. Then the practitioner is capable of knowing anything and everything. Translation 149, or Sutra 149. The absolute truth is all-encompassing, limitless, and infinite. Translation 2. The wisdom is beyond the knowledge learned through books, testimony, or reasoning. Sutra 150. The light of this realization bears the fruit of an evolved life. All previous mental impressions are left behind and new ones are prevented from forming. Let me read this one again. The light of this realization bears the fruit of an evolved life. All previous mental impressions are left behind and new ones are prevented from forming. Translation 2. The impression this realization leaves on the mind wipes out previous impressions. And this is the final sutra of the first pada. When this impression is wiped out, all impressions are completely eradicated and perfect self-realization is achieved. Sutra 151, translation 2. When the light of this evolved state is also erased, seedless samadhi dawns. So let me say two things, and then if you guys have any more questions. Understand, there is samadhi that comes from the study and the practice. This samadhi is based on something in the earthly plane. Nirvicharva Samadhi is enlightenment that is completely free from all earthly attachments. When you reach these states, your past mental impressions arise. When the past mental impressions arise, you watch them and you let them go. Then cravings arise and desires arise. When the cravings and the desires arise, you watch them and you let them go. And when you get into this process, it's an unraveling. And you're just unraveling this knot that's in your heart unravels over time, and you become more and more free, more and more pleasant, and more joyful. The sixth limb, the concentration, should be practiced for a long time with concentration. So you guys already did Sutra 116, 117, 118, 119. In these sutras, it says, practice is mental volition focused for long periods of time. The next sutra says, it's only when we practice this mental volition to calm your mind for long periods of time, devoutly, without interruption, that it becomes firmly grounded in the soul.
So while there's a little pause here, I just, I didn't get to share this with you all, but yesterday I had an invitation to participate in something virtually that I'm supposed to be kicking off a new program, and I have to do that at the top of the hour, but you all can finish out this nicely and conclude. But I'm going to drop off eventually in like a couple of minutes, but I want to thank you, Vincent, for the time that you spent with us today. And I have a feeling that, you know, we might want to stay connected. And I think this was really very beneficial to me, and I would personally love to have more conversation with you, but I'll leave the rest of the few minutes to the group.
Thanks, Barbara, for organizing this.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Barbara, and thanks, Vincent, for explaining all our queries. So yeah, we feel more motivated to do meditation now.
Yeah, I definitely feel more motivated, and like, you know, I feel like, you know, practice is the essence of the whole process, you know, the process of moving further in the I mean, it's weird, like process is the whole process of moving further in the practice, and the practice has to be a process, sort of a, you know, they're so intertwined. I do have a question though, around, again, you know, samadhi and meditation. So is it that when you are in a samadhi with seed, you have an object of concentration that sits in the earthly plane? Is that what it means? And when you have Nirvicharva Samadhi, the object of concentration is, I don't know what, but because I mean, right now, every time we do one pointed concentration, it's either the breath or the body, or we're concentrating on sound. So is that the difference? I mean, that's a question that's been like.
This is an excellent question. The samadhi is the fruit of the previous 7 limbs. So when you master your yamas and your niyamas, you start practicing your honesty, you start practicing your non-harming, you start practicing your non-stealing, your non-attachment, your cultivation of your internal energy, your celibacy, your purity, your self-discipline, your contentment, your surrender to God, and your study. You start practicing asana. Asana means to have a steady, strong, comfortable, aware body with a mind that's focused on infinity. That's what asana is. Then the 4th limb is when you start practicing your pranayama. This is not just focusing on breath. This is also cultivating your internal energy so that your internal energy is strong enough for your mind to achieve samadhi. The 5th limb is when you start focusing inward towards self-realization. The 6th limb is concentration. The 7th limb is when you start to apply conscious effort to keep your mind from going into a state of vritti, of fluctuation, of thinking, of anxiety, of worry, of desire. The fruit of practicing each of these 7 limbs is samadhi. It will occur naturally. And mind you, the yogis call these limbs, they're not steps. So each time you work on your non-harming grows a little bit. Each time you work on your asana gets better. Each time you work on your pranayama gets better. When you're practicing all 7 limbs at the same time, the mind gets drawn into the soul like a magnet, and they click together, and you'll taste the light of the soul. And then your consciousness absorbs in the space around you, and you start to feel a peace.
Okay, thank you.
I tell my students, I get asked that a lot. You're welcome to learn from me. I'd love to teach you. What I tell my students is dedicate yourself to the practice of yoga. I still, sometimes I listen to some of my gurus that are out there. Sometimes you can learn from somebody who's not even a guru. So it's always good to have the teachers there that know which way to guide you, as long as it doesn't become a limitation or a crutch or something that you become dependent upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone has any more questions? Barbara, I was about to interject, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I loved that one of the last sentences that you said about, you'll taste the light of the soul. I loved that. That was a nice, conclusion for me. But no, I don't have any other questions at this time. I hope everyone has found this a fruitful and rewarding conversation.
Yeah, I think the quietness, Barbara, is that well, for me, I've got a lot to think about now.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I don't have any questions.
So,
well, I don't know if this has been asked yet, but certainly, Vincent, we would love to, spend some time with you again in the future. We'll, circle back with you on that if that's something that you're open to.
Keep in touch with me, guys. My YouTube channel is Wisdom Master Vincent Ferrer. I'm going to be posting things on there. I do have a sutra study on there as well. If you guys want my info, you can find my info there. It's all Master Vincent Ferrer. If you Google me, I should come up. It's in Lake Grove. I would love to talk with you guys again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Vincent. That was really helpful and, in many ways inspirational to just, getting glued to the practice. My keyword, my takeaway word from this session is practice. So I'm going to probably practice more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You guys are great. Please get my email from Barbara. And if you could send me a copy of this video, that'd be wonderful.
Hi, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Namaste, guys. God bless.
Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.